G'day guys, Mark at the Outer Circle, and today we're going to be talking about the new Sentinel for the Solar Auxilia, well, Sentinel number 2, technically Sentinel number 3 as well, but we'll get to that, as well as the Shattered Legions and Black Shields announcement, along with the Battle for Beta Garmon new book, which I have some thoughts on. First being Macrodamus is striking again, which is hilarious, but anyway, enough of that, let's talk about the Sentinel. So this looks like it harkens back to that Rogue Trader era sort of Sentinel with the sort of gun-mounted front and center on the body, yada yada. They were hideous then, and I don't know how I feel about them now. I think it looks dumb. I don't think it works for me, especially not for the Solar Auxilia. It's a very down-to-earth faction, and this is more the sort of technology I would expect from a bit of a more bizarre faction, especially not from the Horus Heresy. Because what is this offering over a rapier carriage? You know, put a turbocharger on a rapier, and that's probably more effective because this thing is bringing the firepower. Essentially, this is a grenade launcher, for example, an autocannon or a multi-laser. This is a heavy weapon team's equipment, and it's mounted on this. Like, Sentinels make kind of sense in the Imperial Guard because it's this armored box, you know, protects the crew. This doesn't provide protection to the crew. It has a very, very small gun shield. Doesn't even have a window in it, so, you know, any stray shots that hit that are coming straight through. Enjoy that, but it's just very, very weird looking to me because of this fact. And, of course, it's got thicker thighs than Lizzo, so, you know, take that on board. I also find it strange that they didn't give him, like, a proper elbow pad or a bit of detail. Instead, it's just a bit of stretched fabric from his elbow that they put a hose through. That would be hell awkward and uncomfortable. I know it's real life and it doesn't mean anything for the model, but I just can't help but think that when I look at it. This is the sort of firepower that should be carried by a person. If you're going to put it on a Sentinel, I feel like it should be up armored. And some people are just going to love this because it's talking to their nostalgia. Okay, you can bait a lot of people in this game with nostalgia because they just can't think critically. Now, that doesn't mean they're not allowed to enjoy it. It's just, let's not beat around the bush. That is the sort of situation we find ourselves in, where people look at something like this and go, oh, it looks like something out of Rogue Trader. I just love it. Okay, you do you. But it's not enough reason in and of itself for me to love something, you know? And I don't really love this. This version here, the Flamer version, the Velatari Sentinel. So, we should talk about that. There's two Sentinels displayed here. Triarii and Velatarii, something like that. Let me look. Hermes. Okay, I've got that totally wrong. Hermes and Velatari. Don't know, they're totally polar opposite terms. One's the messenger of the gods or something, and the other is a one of the Roman infantry groups in the early legions, but sure. Same naming convention right there. It sounds Latin good enough. It's the same chassis, but with more armor slapped onto either side, which is nice, easy to glue on, that's fine. And it has some leg armor slapped onto it as well. Okay, I can live with this. But now if you're playing Solar Auxilia, you've just had a book for, a year? If that? And now you've got this and the other unit, and the other Sentinel, and it's all being, slapped together. Solar Auxilia had one Sentinel in their repertoire already in the current rules. And now we've got the Legacies of Age of Darkness PDF, and you've got Exemplary Battles PDF, and you've got now, upcoming book will have them in it. So we've got a bunch of rules spread out and a bunch of directions for this faction, with 3-4 documents required, and we've added 3 units. And we've got 4 documents. So yeah, great. Seems like a great trade there. Nothing to do with the sculpts, of course. It's just a symptom of bad bloat, you know, and people excuse the bad bloat. And as you know, if you've been on the channel for a while, I do not excuse the bad bloat. I call it out because I find it a bit of a repulsive trait of the company. The example I often will point out, and I'll do it again here for an example. Let's say you play Dark Angels in the Horus Heresy. And you wanted to play, and this is within the first 3 months of the game coming out, you wanted to play the Exindio Battle Automata of the Dark Angels. To play it, you would need the basic rulebook, the Legiones Astartes Loyalist book. You would also need the Mechanicum book. You would need the Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF. And that's all 4 books for a single unit. And that's just one example here, amongst a few. That's not including things like if you took the Exemplary Battles unit, then you'd add a 5th into there, or PDF, booklet, whatever. And if you took something from, say, Siege of Cathonia, within the first year of the game, you might need 6-7 documents just to play one bloody unit and a couple of, ancillary units. That sort of bloat, I think, is unforgivable, because I get that the company needs to be constantly producing miniatures and churning them out in order to keep the revenue coming in. But it's like they produce these things with no thought as to what's coming in the future, and rather than put their rules in the books and writing it all at the start, they're so afraid of someone coming in and, making their own sculpt chapter house style to fill a missing product in the range, that they'd just rather not give you the product, not give you all the rules concisely that you've paid for, and instead are just making it up as they go and just adding stuff down the line. It just seems awfully, awfully bad. I was doing all right there, team. And I just totally failed on the verbal IQ then. Awfully, awfully bad. Yeah, good one, Macca. Very smooth. Let's try that another way. It's unprofessional to release such a clusterfuck. There you go. All right. Moving on from there, let's talk the Battle of Beta Garmon, which, I joked about it being Beta Garmon. That was a macrodance. I think it might have been a live stream. I joked about it. What'll be next? Beta Garmon, since they're so insistent on the Siege of Terra. And the joke is on me because that's what they did. But what's very interesting is they talk about what's going to be in this book. So as you go down through it, gotta have the Imperial Fists on there. Onslaught campaign involving the Shattered Legions and Black Shields. These guys have nothing to do with Beta Garmon. The only Shattered Legions I can think of, they're Beta Garmon, the Covenant of Fire of the Salamanders, which is a very, it's a cool unit and all, but they're only involved in, I think, Beta Garmon Theta or something like that. I forget off the top of my head. I spoke about it only a month or so ago in a lore video, just on the Shattered Legions. And that's it. Like, Beta Garmon is a fight between full-on, Blood Angels, White Scars, Imperial Army, and Titans, or Titan Death, All this stuff is taking place on Beta Garmon. It has nothing to do with Shattered Legions and Black Shields. They're out fighting the more skirmish-level conflicts in the rest of the galaxy. So why would you set the book at Beta Garmon and then fill it with those units? I think Black Shields and Shattered Legions definitely need to be done now, but I'm just going to throw this idea out there. How about we step away from the Siege of Terra and, look at the rest of the Horus Heresy, because, 13-year-long conflict, and the Siege of Terra is the last few months of the last year of that. That's, the way of things. Instead, what we've got here is this massive chunk of the middle of the heresy that's just not spoken about. And we're just trying to fill in the blanks in the middle, and it's disgusting, frankly, and a bad way to write. All because they want to tie it into the Siege of Terra, which is a shit book series. I'll go ahead and say it. None of the books are good. A few of them are readable. And the people who are defending them, I want you to come back in 10 years and tell me if you still think they're good. I think those books are the Avatar, the film Avatar, of the Horus Heresy. So, dropping some bombs on you today, audience. Yeah, look at me go. Like the film Avatar came out, everyone was saying how great a film it was. I went to cinema and watched it and I go, oh yeah, it's flashy visuals, not much substance to Dances with Smurfs. And, then the hype for Avatar died down. Somehow the second one did well financially. Again, I think it's just the hype, the spectacle of it. The word of mouth was definitely not there for the second one, but I look at the Horus Heresy and it's like that. The Siege of Terra series is the Avatar franchise. It's just this big flashy show where nothing happens except authors sniffing their own farts for book after book, dragging it out. There's no way we could have told the end and the death in 2 volumes. Or even 1 volume. No, it had to be 3. Oh, God. So their fixation as a company with that point in history, which is really the least interesting part of the heresy, because you think about it, it's just, at the end of the Horus heresy, you've got the Word Bearers don't take part, the Elf Legion pretty much don't take part, the Thousand Sons play a very, very small part, the Night Lords are shattered, they don't play a big part in it, although they wrote them in the story anyway, despite, 5 of them being left alive after what the Lion did to them. The Siege of Terror is really carried by the Death Guard, the World Eaters, the Sons of Horus, and the Iron Warriors. The Emperor's Children are there, but there is no strategy to them. They're just going off and, doing Emperor's Children things all around the planet. But for some reason, everyone is so fixated on the Siege of Terror. It's the Game of Thrones Season 8 of the Horus Heresy series. It's just this horrible, just accursed thing of fluff at the end of it, and they can't get the books to step away from it. And so we get Beta Garmon here, when it's like you've got so many more interesting campaigns that you could be focusing on. So focus on those. I don't mind this paint scheme though. That may surprise a few of you. It's kind of cool. I'd be interested if that decal, if there's like a new Black Shields decal sheet, that'd be kind of cool. Although it looks like maybe some hand painting or some decals ripped from elsewhere being used, but I digress. I'm complaining that actually they've got Death Guard decals. Maybe. I digress. I'm sort of rambling here because it's just, I want the Shadow Legions, I want the Black Shields, I don't want this book. That's really what it boils down to. They've got to introduce these additional Solar Auxiliary units in here. Why couldn't you have a Black Shields or Shadow Legion Force versus Solar Auxilia out somewhere in the galaxy? That could have made for an interesting story. Instead, we have a book that, is going to talk about Sanguinius and Jagged-Eye Khan, which, cool characters, but why here? What about all of the 7 or 8 years of fighting that Jagged-Eye did in between discovering out heresy was going on and actually him getting to Terra and this big guerrilla war that he fights against the traitor legions? Like, oh, that's an interesting story. Can we please have some of that? Can we have some of what the Shadow Crusade of like the World Eaters rampaging across the Kelt sector with the Word Bearers and the Ultramarines just scrambling to, pull together loyalist forces to drive them off? Please, sir, may we have some of that? And the company's just like, no, eat your fucking sack of potatoes and rocks. Mostly rocks. And I just, it's the most depressing thing, And I hate talking about, this sort of thing in episodes. I want to talk about the stuff I find fun. And I say this a lot, but I really do want to talk about the stuff I find fun. The problem is, though, where else are you going to come to have someone talk about this stuff? I think logically, but, opinions will vary about my opinions. But what about you? Tell me honestly, audience, 1-to-1 right now, you're here with Macca. What do you want in the Horus Heresy? I'm pretty sure most of you don't give a hoot about the Siege of Terror, and you want your various forces to be running around the galaxy stomping things, because the Siege of the Terror really represents the end of things, right? It doesn't represent the opening of new frontiers to write fluff and lore and backstory, because it closes off the heresy. What you want, I'm guessing, is like me, something in the middle there, where you can come with an identity to your army, and you can go out and you can play your battles, and these battles affect the army, and they change how you write the fluff, and you can write up the victories and all the worlds you reconquer, and, all of that side of things. Or maybe you just like the models, and you're like, I don't care that, Horus got a second model, and Jagged-Eye hadn't even got a bike. I like the new Horus model, and it's awful base Macca. Can you just be happy for me with that? I'm like, sure, you do you, man. Let me know what you think below. I'm open to your ideas here. I may struggle to rationalize it though, because I sit here going, that these decisions make no sense to me. Why would a human being do that? And then I remember, it's a greedy company driven by profit, and they are happy to piss all over the game system with short-sightedness, because no one has any ability to call them on their BS, because they've never suffered a loss. And They really need to. The company needs to suffer like a big financial hit. They need their Bud Light moment. Their Budweiser moment where they do just the wrong thing at the wrong time. I mean, if Siege of Terror, The End and the Death, Volume 3's double debacle, wasn't enough to get them mass boycotted, to make them change their practices towards their customer base, nothing will. Which is a real shame, because until they get hit financially, all these things that we complain about and we hate and we dislike, they won't. Why are they going to change them? They got no incentive to change anything. Siege of Terror books are a great example. They sold them, didn't they? Doesn't matter if they're badly written. Doesn't matter if so many people couldn't get them and they had to return to scalpers because the scalpers took all the copies. Once Workshop was paid, that's it. Their responsibility ended there. They don't owe you a thing. And they forget they need us. They need our money so that they have their jobs. But you have just this bunch of sociopathic executives who have no idea about the market they're in, but they all, worked at Tesco's or something, and they're mates with mates in a boys' club and get hired into this management stream, and they're all there to milk the teats of profit, and they'll sell it before it goes tits up, and walk off to some other job on a corporate golden parachute, having to face no repercussions for driving this fucking franchise into the ground at a steady rate of knots. And I am not a naysayer for no reason. I don't make overly hyperbolic claims about the business. I don't say, Games Workshop is dead or anything like that. I'm not a Discourse Miniatures or something. Every video is their latest screw-up of Games Workshop. But I will say this to you. I think their business is already in the decline. They are going to continue making money, however, and this decline is going to take about 15 to 20 years. That's my guess, based on what I've seen in other corporations. And I say this because they've not fostered the fan base. Even if you get a Henry Cavill on board and, oh my god, we're going to make Warhammer mainstream, it is not enough to make something and take it mainstream for it to make money. What you do with it has to be good. Now, once upon a time, you could put crap out into the mainstream and make your money. I think Star Wars is probably the best example of this, where it was like, anything Star Wars would make money. I mean, Last Jedi made money, and that movie should not have made money. Force Awakens shouldn't have made money. But you could throw it out there. Not now. Now, it's not a guarantee that your Star Wars film is going to make money, and I feel like that's Warhammer. It's on that borderline of, you make a few really good things, you might make it work as a media franchise, but on the whole, the business model of exponentially greater prices for far less miniatures and decreasing numbers all the time, I don't think that's sustainable. In fact, I know it's not sustainable because I talk to you, the community, and I listen to you. I genuinely care about you because I want you in the hobby and enjoying yourselves. I think that it's very important to foster the good things because, especially the younger people watching the channel, those in their teens and early 20s, you're the next generation. You're going to take this over from my generation, the people in their mid-30s. Just as we are taking over from the people who are now in their mid-40s and in their 50s. The people who are aging out of the franchise. We had it for our time and we're going to pass it on to you. And I want a lovely franchise that's got a lot of life in it and you're passionate to get into it and play it to be passed down to you. And instead, what we're getting is this horrible, horrible corporatized piece of shit, which they will just ruin the legacy of. They'll destroy the canon, they'll destroy the themes, all of that, just for the sake of a quick buck. And I just find that genuinely depressing. And the fact that Beta Garmon has me speaking so honestly to you about this really shows something, that it just shows how wrong book at wrong time I think this is. And again, feel free to disagree with me. I'm not the arbiter of truth and justice where I am always correct. I really want to stress this point. All of you listening have viewpoints which are valid, okay? It doesn't mean they're equal, though. That's a strong thing to understand with humans and arguing, is that you can all hold opinions, but not all opinions are equal, okay, in their validity. But they are equal to ourselves, okay? Our own opinions mean a lot to us. And my opinion, obviously, is what leads to these videos being created. But it doesn't mean the opinion here that I hold is the objectively superior opinion. I may throw that word out there a bit, but I throw it out there more as a bit of a, this is my character as such. I'm not doing the character of the Outer Circle right now. I'm just talking to you as James, the person, not Macca, James, the person. And I'm saying that, I worry for the future of the franchise because of stuff like this, where you've lost sight of what the goal of this particular franchise is. You could be making awesome books that just sell for so much money and requires so little effort. And that's the thing that I find truly depressing. How much time and effort does it take to write these things? It's surprisingly little. There is far more time spent formatting and editing these books than actually writing these books. And even then, it's not a huge amount of time. A couple of people can make a book this big, this complex. I say big and complex. We'll see how big it actually is. But we can make books the size of Age of Darkness, like Siege of Cthonia. That's a week of work, If you've got a full-time photographer with the miniatures there ready to go and they can just stage their shots, they will pump out so many of those from so many different angles so quickly. They'll spend more time just photoshopping backgrounds in than they will with the actual layout on the page. And it doesn't help that the company is really cheaping out on the creative people, behind the scenes. They are trying to get the cheapest possible staff to work for them because they want to cut those cost overheads in their labor pool because they're greedy. And it's just such an easy way to keep costs down so you can bullshit your shareholders into how profitable you are. When really you're trying to do so much with so little, and they've been doing it for so long, it's just become second nature to the company. And those poor staff there are completely underpaid, probably demoralized to some extent, thinking they were coming to their dream job, only to have some shit stain from a fucking supermarket who is used to just, that attitude of we sell everything that's on the shelves in this supermarket, get the price right so that everything goes off the shelves. And those people are coming into this franchise and they're running out of stock because they don't understand production management. It was a whole nother kettle of fish I could go into as its own separate video. And they just go, it's fine that we're running out of product all the fucking time because they think of it like a supermarket because that's their background. These people don't understand what they're talking about and they're running this company. And this is the horrible point in life that we reach. Again, this is me talking to you person to person, not content creator personality, Outer Circle. No, it's all these people that are in these positions in these companies running them are fucking idiots. They are not people who are good at the jobs. They're people who are good at connections, and those connections have got them into these jobs, and they are able to profit off them through luck, through having people below them who do have the genuine passion, the desire, and are able to pull things together and make it happen. And these people at the top are sitting there going, I just need to flex my muscles every now and then so people think I'm doing something to justify my £1 million salary. And it's like, are you earning that? Well, your stuff is constantly out of stock, not because you did so well that you just sold it out, but out of stock because you planned your production poorly. And why is that? Well, because you rushed out so many products this year. And why is that? Well, we couldn't not have massive product launches because we need to keep the constant hype cycle up. We've got to have those 3 monthly releases. Like Legions Imperialis was delayed. Do we delay Old World Warhammer to give a bit of breathing room between the two systems? Nah, fuck that. Drop Old World Warhammer straight out the door, right? Just let Legions Imperialis die an instantaneous death because everyone is instantly mesmerized by the hypnotic new shiny thing. And why do they do that? Well, they do that because of the shareholders. They need to turn around to them and say, look at our 3 monthly profit. Look at our 3 monthly profit. It's what they live off. They are not thinking 10, 12 years strategically ahead. And you see that in their strategic reports, their financial reports. If you read what they send out to the shareholders, it says things like, that boils down to, we at Games Workshop make money from selling models. We intend to sell models into the far future. And then no point in there is to say how they're going to do this. They just say, it will happen, more or less. These people running the show are idiots. And people on the internet, you have to stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Once you understand that they are not professionals, that they are not good at their job, that they just lucked into it. So much more will make sense to you. And that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the product, doesn't mean you can't agree with some of the decisions that are made. But you have to understand it is a bloated corporate entity that you give me 3 or 4 people of my choice to step in and run this company. I reckon I will put my hand on my heart, sell the soul, as it were, that we would double the company's worth within 3 years. Because we understand the market and we understand our different roles. And I'm talking some serious people here that I know that I would get involved in this. And that's no word of a lie. Because I've come from a big manufacturing background, multi-million-dollar company, different scale to Warhammer, obviously. But I understand production management very well, and I know the sort of people I need to hire to make things happen. I also understand the production process, things like dies. Many people in the management space don't understand what goes into creating things, into digital sculpting, into machining them out, into turning that into a physical product. And that's why decisions get made that get made. And this constant rush of just spitting out game after game after game has diminishing returns. There is going to be a point where eventually the addicts turn around and go, man, I've got so much unpainted crap. I've got a problem here and I'm hoarding. And once they stop buying, I mean, they do nothing to foster the old fans of the franchise they've been collecting for years. Instead, they want to focus all of their energy on getting new people to buy a starter set, not to retain them in the hobby, but to come into the store, buy a big expensive starter box, the flavor of the month, whatever it might be, and then just buy it and forget it. And if you go into Games Workshops, and I've done this experiment at many Games Workshops, after I've gone in there for a while and I've built up a rapport with the staff, because I'm a normal human, I don't hate the staff, I treat them well, and they conversely are not horrible people. They will treat you well if you talk to one another like normal humans most of the time. And they will openly tell you how few customers are repeat customers. They have their usuals, okay? Games Workshop stores have their usuals. The usuals, however, are not fostered by the company. The company is trying to force the managers of the individual store outlets to upsell starter sets to people, and that's been their way for decades. And it is going to crash and burn. That is a long-term prediction for you in a video that started off talking about a Sentinel, and I feel bad for making it, but I had to get off my chest. You know, everyone needs to decompress after a while. And so I ask you, as the audience, you know, listen to what I said, take it on board. If you think I'm telling lies here, point it out. You know, don't be shy. Don't just leave the dislike. I mean, I don't care if you dislike the video. Dislike it 5 times for all I care. Each. You know, go create an alternate account and dislike it. What I care about more is your feedback, what you think of the situation. Because some of you out there are going to understand business. You're going to understand manufacturing. You might understand 3D, sculpting and design, die manufacture, all these things that, you know, I'm aware of. And you might even understand some of these areas better than me. So give me your thoughts. Do you think it's sustainable? Because personally, I think that there are only so many, you know, people in the world who are willing to put up with the current business practices. And me personally, I want to support the company. I want to buy these products to show them, like, keep making stuff for this system that I love. But Battle of Beta Garmon, it's not at all interesting to me. I think it is the wrong book at the wrong time and a subject that has been just so thoroughly covered and is so fucking boring. You know, it doesn't suit me. But please, tell me what you think, person to person. Anyway, I'm Mac at the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching the episode and for putting up with the demented rant that made up 2/3 of it. And I'll see you on the next video.